Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. Shout out as always to the Godfather. We're going to go a little different audio today. Let's go here. All right. Take care of the technical glitches. Get the audio fixed, working. All right, we're good now. We're going separate mic. Pretty much like the Lions today. We had to switch it up. So welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius. We will week 2 of the 2023 season. We have to shout out the super producer extraordinaire, as always, the Godfather, the creator of the podcast, Mr. Mike Ward. So week 2 of the 2023 season, a lot to unpack, a bit to unpack. Um, uh, this game had everything, right? All the things that the SOL guys love. It had moments of excitement. I think what we see so far through 2 games is there's a lot to clean up, right? I think it's a young team, and the things I see that concern me are things that are correctable. And that's no cornbread. I see things that happen in the game. I think, why does that happen? And then it turns out it's a young guy, or it's someone missing an assignment, or a busted coverage. All those things can be fixed, right? So you know what the name of this podcast is, and if you're listening, you know who I am. So if you're not and you're new to this, the name is the name for a reason. I'm an optimistic person by nature, and I am a cornbread eating, Kool-Aid drinking Detroit Lions fan. So this podcast reflects that. I don't run from that. I don't apologize for that. If you're that guy who's always negative or always thinks you know everything, you can call the radio tomorrow and tell them all of your thoughts. I'm not necessarily here for it. So both sides of the ball today, we saw mistakes. We saw some less than clean football, but through 2 games, I'm not that concerned. Of course, I'm not concerned. I don't do concern like that. I think when your team gets beaten by a better team, you worry about talent. When your team gets beaten because of mistakes they make, your analysis has to be: are these correctable mistakes? Are they talent mistakes? Is a guy holding because he's getting beat because he's slow? Are guys missing assignments? Are they missing tackles? Missed tackles bother me. That's a talent thing. When I see blown assignments, guys wide open, or different things like that, they scream to me, young team that can be coached up. And that is definitely the optimist view, but that's okay. Today was self-inflicted wounds coming back and biting the Lions squarely in the ass. We have to agree. I don't do the thing of, even though we lost, I think we were the better team. Doesn't matter. We still lost, right? Even if that statement were true, and I probably believe it's true, doesn't matter. Still got the L, right? So I think you still see something though in this team that was down 10 points with 6 minutes left. There's a version of this team that never even gets back in this game. You don't see overtime. There's a version of this team that rolls over and never sees the light of day. And by the way, the Twitter feed is up. We There's going to be a segment later where if you've got something good or reasonable, I'll answer it. I'm doing more free flowing on this podcast. I'm going to talk about some moments in the game. I'm going to talk about specific players in the game that I liked, and then I'm just going to see what you guys want to talk about on Twitter. Less me, more you. But don't bring that don't bring that stuff I don't like, because I won't do it. You know I won't do it. But there was a time in the past where this team throws a pick six with 6 minutes left in the game and goes down 10, and guys turn their TV off and they go out in their garage. But I said this last week. Every game is going to be like this. Every game's going to be this 3 hours where your stomach's going to hurt and you're going to be like, come on. In moments you're going to be thrilled. I think you see players getting better, young players. I think we see people we didn't really give their proper due, making plays. You guys know how I feel about the quarterback. I'm going to do my best not to do that today, because I know that when he threw that pick six, SOL guy was living his best life. SOL guy was on Twitter typing out memes, doing all that stuff. And I just don't do that, right? You know who I am if you listen to this podcast. So the game itself, I think, had all the things that we're going to see, but this is what we should get used to. This is what being a Lions fan in 2023 is going to be like. Now, I still contend they're going to be better than 7 or 8 of the teams they play, and they should win those games. I think they're going to be as good as another 3, 4 the teams that they play, 5 teams that they play, and it will take better efforts than they gave us last Thursday and today. Thursday, they won the game. They grinded it out. It was hard. And there are people who will tell you that if not for 2 missing players, we don't win that game. Maybe. I don't really care. I could say the same thing today. If Montgomery doesn't get hurt, if 2 offensive linemen don't get hurt, we had defensive backs rolling in and out playing on injuries. I don't do the injury thing. I never do it. I never will. This game is a loss. End of the day, it's a loss. But I thought it was interesting because there were some real moments in the game that I thought were interesting and fascinating. I think right after Seattle went down and scored, the first drive of the game for the Lions was important. It was important to get the crowd back in it, to make sure they made a statement, and so that answer, that second drive answer, I thought was really important. Um, there's some calls. I'm not sure. Like this going forward every fourth down thing. It's easy to second guess it when you don't get a couple. I think I'm going to establish right now. I'm good with all the fourth down calls. If Dan Campbell decides to go for it, I'm not gonna wishy washy. I'm not gonna be that dude. I'm just gonna lock in and say Dan Campbell's gonna go for it if it's fourth and like 4 or less, depending on where you are on the field. And sometimes he doesn't care whether it's a fake punt or a regular play call. We probably should just accept the way Dan Campbell sees his team, the way he sees the game. And I think it is largely he believes in his players. That's why I'm down with it. I'm going to roll with it because I think it's a reflection of how Dan Campbell sees the team. And that's it's got to be a positive. I think it's a positive. So I'm almost never going to do the whole shouldn't have gone for it on fourth down thing. Last week he did one in his own territory that was sketchy, but okay, fine. So in terms of moments, I love the flea flicker. I love where they called it. I love when they called it. I love that they called it because the common theory is that without Jamison Williams, we don't have a take the top off the defense receiver in the wide receiver room. And we may be sleeping on Khalif Raymond. You know, he clearly did. He ran the route beautifully. They showed a replay of like the route where he does this stutter like he's going to block for the run, and the corner bought it. Corner ate it up. Okay, I think it was a rookie corner, but whatever. I think Khalif Raymond, for another 4 weeks, by the way, only can fill that role. Remember, Jamison Williams is coming back. I think a flea flicker is a part of the playbook. You'll see it 2 or 3 more times this year, in my opinion, and I think you should. A play that might fly under the radar. Lions get the ball back late second quarter, and Gibbs beats his man on a route, and he drops. Right, it goes right through his hands. That play didn't end up hurting them, but maybe there was an opportunity to get points back, even if it was just a field goal. Maybe an opportunity to do more because there was still plenty of time. But it was a I think it was a third down play, and if you could have added points there and then get the ball back in the second half, that's how you change the game. That's how you really blow the game up. And that didn't work out. Obviously, the first play of the second half was a critical play in the game. That was a 7 point gift. That's a touchdown. You fumble there, that's a touchdown. Probably the biggest play of the game. There are those who are going to jump to the pick six for sure. That was a moment that shifted everything. Crowd had a halftime thing. They were ready to get back into the game. That sucked the air out of the building. I think that the pass interference on the touchdown of Montgomery didn't hurt us because we ended up coming back and scoring. But I hope somebody talks about that play. And because what I saw Reynolds do was run his route and accidentally or just they encountered each other. There was no grabbing, there was no pushing. He didn't throw a block. He just bumped into the guy. And I think that was a bad call. Um, Late third quarter, I think the Lions made a big stand after they had a first and goal and held them to a field goal. I thought at the time that could have been the moment of the game. right? I did not foresee the pick six and all the other stuff. But at the moment, I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to want to mention that as like this key moment probably in the game. Turns out it was important, but not as important. Um, that fourth down, no call on the pass interference when Josh Reynolds running that crossing route, big, big. And it's, I'm not trying to do the ref thing. No, I'm not trying to do the ref thing. That's a big call though. I think the key thing that's a key takeaway is there were injuries on the offensive line. Decker didn't start the game at all. Vitae got hurt, and I think someone else got hurt. Sewell moved over. Glasgow was in. I saw Nelson in at one point. So I think it might have just been those two. But I think we talk about depth being a thing. Every team gets injuries. You saw injuries, but that offensive line, that those injuries, I think changed what you saw in the type of pressure Goff was getting in the second half versus the first half. Goff was playing with a really clean pocket in the first half, and his numbers reflected it. But I think that in the second half, he was under more pressure, and I think his play in the second half reflected it. Um, More than anything, I think the biggest thing was the Montgomery injury. David Montgomery was controlling the game. Right, he was allowing the Lions to control the game. Those 5, 6 yard gash runs put you in down and distance situation that allow you to have more options, right? And I think people know this, people get this part, but when they use the term ahead of the sticks, right? David Montgomery's play allowed the Lions to play a lot of the time ahead of the sticks. And when he got hurt, no reflection on Jameer Gibbs, while offensive linemen are also going down, that changed everything. This is a running team. We talked about the grit thing and how this is going to be their personality. This is going to be the MO of this season for the Detroit Lions. They're going to win games ugly. They're going to lose games ugly. They may put together one or two beautiful, artful masterpieces. It's not who they are, right? If Montgomery's injury is serious, that's going to hurt. I saw ice on his knee, but they said it was a thigh. So I don't know. It happened when he was twisting. So I'm worried about like a sprained knee, which is odd because my only issue with DeAndre Swift was availability, and Montgomery gets hurt in the second game. David Montgomery's critical, critical. People who don't get that have to understand that when those injuries to the offensive lineman and David Montgomery changed everything in the second half. The way the Lions could play, especially when they got behind, they had to play a different game. So there were critical moments in this game that changed the entire complexity of what the Lions are able to do. And in its simplest terms, is you come into a game saying Dan Campbell's teams will come into every game saying, "This is who we are. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do us. And if you beat us while we're doing us, we'll shake your hand and call you the better team." When the Lions can't do what they are, which is gash you 3, 4, 5 yards with Montgomery, get into 2nd and 4, which opens up the playbook for Laporta and Amonra, then it's a different game. It's a different game for the Lions. Ben Johnson has to call a different game. Dan Campbell's makes different decisions. So the key to it is that when you're not able to do what you do, you have to do other things. And if you don't, I think what I'm saying is simple. But the reality is, during the week, they develop a game plan. We're playing this team. This is what they do. So this is what we're going to do. Here's the package of plays we're going to call. This is the style of game we're going to play. Pound them with the run inside the tackles, or go outside, or short passing. You develop this plan through the week of how you intend to attack the Seattle Seahawks, and then due to injuries to offensive linemen, due to injuries to your lead back, you can't do the things you've practiced, the things you planned. You're not able to do you, right? Now you're doing something else. You're doing things you didn't practice much. You're playing guys who haven't practiced much. You're doing things you're not comfortable with, and you can see the difference in Jared Goff when that's the case. So I think as critical as certain plays were, drops or missed tackles, the injury to David Montgomery was critical, without question. And the offensive lineman going out changed everything they could do. Now, all that being said, they came back, they took the game to overtime, and if the coin flips differently, they might win the game. That's a positive thing to say. That's not an excuse. There's a fine line between reasons and excuses. And sometimes people hear reasons and they don't want to accept them as reasons, so they call them excuses. You got to make plays, right? At the end of the day, you got to make plays. But I think that if Montgomery's injury is important because that allows them to do what they do and allows them to be who they are. All due respect to Craig Reynolds, he's not David Montgomery. We got to see early in this game today the value of David Montgomery, right? Why people who are saying, hey, they're going to miss Jamal Williams. If David Montgomery's healthy, they will not miss Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams will do everything. David Montgomery will do everything Jamal Williams did and probably more. But so let's talk about some players who played well. And the point of this is it's all young guys getting better, right? You can look at your team. 2 years ago, when they lost games like this, I would get on this podcast and I would talk about talent deficiencies. I would talk about guys whose names I don't remember now playing critical moments in the game and not making plays. I would talk about guys who had been around a couple years but weren't getting better. I have no personal issue with Jarrett Davis, the linebacker out of Florida. Jarrett Davis was no better in year 4 than he was in year 1. That's a problem, right? That's a problem, coaching wise, development wise. So we would have plenty of those conversations about name the guy, right? Jeff Okuda, that was injury related. We talked about Jelani Tavai and all these guys who it was talent, right? Those guys aren't in the league killing it somewhere else right now. They're out of the league. So when I see Derek Barnes making plays, I am encouraged about our coaching staff. I'm happy for the guy. I think Derek Barnes early in that game made a mark, made plays, and I like that. I think that earlier in the year when his name escapes me, the wide receiver that went to Tennessee from Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins. Whew. When DeAndre Hopkins was available, the calls were go get D Hop, go get D Hop. And I remember saying to someone, the answer once Jameson got suspended is not go get D Hop. It's not go get anyone. It is Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond stepping up. And I'm not saying Josh Reynolds is a superstar. So, guy on Twitter who's about to say, or hell, maybe my brother Kenny, who's about to type me and tell me that Josh Reynolds is no good. I'm not asking him to be a Pro Bowler. I'm asking him to make plays when we need him to make plays. And Josh Reynolds made plays. He made them last week. He made them today. Um, I think he is. There's no hole in the wide receiver room that needs to be filled. Jameson Williams will be back week 7. Josh Reynolds is solid. I think Khalif comes through when he needs to. I need more from Marvin Jones, but at the end of the day, the wide receiver room centers around Amon-Ra St. Brown. And as long as that guy gets 8, 9 targets a game, and now you've got the emergence of my next guy, Sam Laporta. This is the tight end we want. This is a tight end making plays in this offense. That opens it up. It opens up the hash. You saw Sam Laporta today. This is a rookie, by the way. Derek Barnes in his 3rd year, stepping up. This is a rookie. Sam Laporta is going to be a really good tight end. Sam Laporta might already be a really good tight end in this league. And if Goff keeps trusting him like he does, and Laporta keeps making plays like he does, when Jameson Williams comes back, Laporta's better, Amon-Ra's better, Gibbs is better out of the backfield as a receiver because Jameson Williams requires attention. I don't think there needs to be any work done in the wide receiver room. CJ Gardner-Johnson was just a tremendous signing. I think as a leader, he's solid and he makes plays. CJ Gardner-Johnson makes plays. I think, and I'm almost surprised. He makes clean tackles. He supports the run well. He makes tackles for loss in the backfield because he shoots the gap quietly, not so quietly. CJ Gardner-Johnson loudly is doing his job really well. Quietly, Cam Sutton, you don't hear his name. You don't hear but you don't hear them. Cam Sutton doesn't get beat. Cam Sutton just does his job. Cam Sutton played the whole game today. Last week too. You don't hear his name get called because corners, when their name gets called, is usually because they've gotten beat or they committed a penalty. Cam Sutton's just doing his job quietly, and it's another great signing, right? I hope we can re-sign Gardner-Johnson, but Cam Sutton has just got one side of the field kind of on lock. I don't even remember they threw at Cam Sutton that many times, and that's what you want from your CB1. So we have a top corner in Cam Sutton that I'm happy about. Gardner-Johnson is a leader on and off the field. I like what Josh Reynolds brings. and the emergence of Laporta and Barnes. These are all good things. 3 years ago on this podcast, Mike and I would work to try and find somebody, a player that we could specifically talk about in terms of what they did in this game and how it represents what they might do in the future. But Cam Sutton's under contract for 3 years. So we're going to get solid cornerback play on one side for sure. That brings me to the not so thrilling people, right? Um, Jerry Jacobs. I don't dislike Jerry Jacobs. I don't dislike Jerry Jacobs. I'm going to say it again. He did not play well today. I don't. So if you're on Twitter, or you want to put in the comments, help me understand when it's 3rd and 8 and you're playing 10 yards off the receiver. I saw Jerry Jacobs gift guys easy catches because they just ran their routes 5 yards in front of them. It made the throw easy for Geno. There was a 3rd and 7 where he was legitimately 10 yards from his guy. The guy ran 8 yards, stopped, and caught the ball for an easy first down. I don't know the scheme. I don't know the scheme. Well, I know a bit about the scheme. If that's schematic, then my problem's with AG, right? I don't think Jerry Jacobs had a good day. My problem might be with AG. Maybe AG got schemed today. Maybe their coaches saw what we did defensively, saw what we do defensively, and schemed up some of these. The tight ends, it feels like it's always been an issue for us covering tight ends. Tight ends were running wide open a number of times, and that's when I get concerned. So I'm putting AG on the list for today because I saw too many guys running wide open in our secondary. And I'm not saying it was every play. I'm not even saying our defense didn't play well, right? If you take away the touchdown they got on a short field from the Montgomery fumble early in the second half and the pick six, you got to go back and realize how many points did they actually score. And you can say they missed 2 field goals. Okay, great. I don't think the defense played that bad. I think the defense had a couple of bad plays, but I don't think the defense actually played that badly. I felt like everything I said about Cam Sutton, I feel like I could say the opposite about Jerry Jacobs. Almost every time some guy was running wide open, Jerry Jacobs was chasing him. Almost every time somebody made a big catch, Jerry Jacobs was covering him. Whereas Cam Sutton's name barely got called because they don't throw at him a lot, and when they do, he makes plays. So there's a negative when you lose the game. You can't ignore that. I think there might have been some schematics where AG maybe didn't have the guys in the position. Also, there's young guys over there. I did not love the play today of Jerry Jacobs. Now, by all accounts, he's a good dude. He'll probably bounce back. Um, Injuries, right? I don't know. Kirby Joseph was out for a while. Gardner Johnson was out for a minute. There were guys hurt on that side. So today was a hard injury day for us. Today was a hard injury day. We had a lot of guys go down. I didn't check to see how serious a lot of them were, but we had a lot of guys go down today. And that's tough. But in terms of like players today, love what I'm seeing from Barnes and Laporta. I hope Montgomery's okay and it's not serious because that changes everything we try and do. I am quickly beginning to like Josh Reynolds a lot, and Gardner Johnson and Cam Sutton are tremendous in the secondary. So out of a loss, when you can name that many players that you feel like played well or are continuing to play well and adding value to the team, you get over this. You have to get over this. So it's a tough one, right? Because I had them winning. I am not 100% sure they weren't the better team on the field today, but it's the NFL. They're going to lose games. I still think they're a very good team. I still think they're 12, 13 win team. Today was just there's some stuff to clean up. They need to clean up some stuff though. So all right, this is where we just do the Twitter thing. We want to be more interactive. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. We're going to try and be more interactive. So Mike has just randomly shot me over a few, and I'm just going to read them and go for them. So all right, I don't do names anymore because I think there are people who send stuff like this one. So here's the thing: if you're new to the podcast, there are a handful of sayings that I don't like. I don't do them, right? They will either piss me off or they'll make me jump down a rabbit hole or it turns me into the worst version of myself. They are this team is cursed. I don't believe in curses. The Fords need to sell the team. That's an old tired one that Sheila Ford Hamp is different than William Clay Ford and Martha. And I did a whole podcast on why she's different. I even touched on it last week. And my favorite, all sarcasm. Same old Lions, right? Because it suggests that when they lose a game, there is a special and unique way that the Lions always lose. And that's just not true. I did a whole podcast on why that was the dumbest thing ever. So the very first one, and it might just be Mike having fun with me, or maybe there's so many of them, he doesn't have a lot to choose from. We knew there would be an SOL game. Are you surprised it happened so soon? um, Yeah, so I'm not gonna do it. So my new thing is like, okay, he wants me to say his name. What this really is this guy wants me to say his name on my podcast, and dropping the SOL was supposed to get me to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Except I'm not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe. I'm not. I'm gonna talk about Jared Goff now. Because here's the thing: there are people who are gonna blame him because pick sixes are impactful, right? A pick six is a big deal. And guys are going to jump on the pick six. They're going to say, and they know I'm a golf guy. And if you're new to the podcast, I am a massive Jared Goff fan. I don't run from it. I don't apologize for it. He was 10 of 12 in his first 12 throws. One of them was the Gibbs drop, and the other was a great play by Devin Witherspoon. But he completed 10 of his first 12. Jared Goff's playing really good football today. And historically, I talk about quarterback play in two ways. There are bad decisions and there are bad throws. Always a way for me to gratuitously mention Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, because of the quality of his arm, would make bad decisions that would be covered up because he would make great throws. So Jared Goff, one of my things about Jared Goff has always been he knows who he is. So should you look at him, you don't see those throws, you go, oh my God, what a rifle. It's not what he does. Jared Goff makes great decisions. He goes where the ball should go. There was a play last week where he had a Monra up the seam. It would have been a big game, maybe a touchdown. But Jared Goff follows his progressions. And the progression told him to make the throw to Reynolds, and he did. And it was ended up being a first down, really good throw, really good play. But the replay from the high up camera showed St. Brown was past the safety, and it would have been a huge game. I don't I don't have a problem. I hate bad decisions more than bad throws. Today he had one bad decision and one bad throw the whole game. Now it doesn't mean he didn't have incompletions because there are incompletions that are drops, there are incompletions that are good plays, there are incompletions that are rush throws because of pressure. One bad decision. And honestly, the bad throw wouldn't have mattered because it was the play before where he made the bad decision. The bad decision was on a route that Gibbs ran up the sideline. He was wide open, and Goff went off of him too quickly. Didn't see that he was wide open, and went somewhere else with the football. I don't remember how the play ended. I think it was incompletion, but Gibbs was wide open up the left sideline. And the very next play, he made his bad throw, and that ball's behind. Right? He made another bad throw. He was behind on St. Brown on a slant route. So maybe two bad throws, one bad decision. But that bad throw that ended in the pick six should have never happened because if on the play before he hits Gibbs up the sideline, it's a big gainer. And now the playbook is different. You probably don't even run the play that results in the interception. But overall, Goff was 28 of 35, 323 yards, three touchdowns, and one interception, a 121.8 rating. That's the metric, guys. That's the metric for measuring how your quarterback played. And 121.8 is a really good number. Jared Goff's playing really good football, right? So to the guy who wanted me to do the SOL, I say to you, we have our quarterback. His name's Jared Goff. Deal with it. So you can call the radio tomorrow and do your SOL thing and all that nonsense because I don't really do it. I don't believe in it. I think it's a really good football team, and you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. So all right, another one. Okay, refs. Four question marks. Refs, four question marks. Oh boy. Okay. So I don't generally do the ref thing. I don't generally do the ref. So pick up the flag in Dallas. I did the ref thing. I think I hadn't started the podcast yet, but I referenced it. Um, Here's the thing, guys. The refs are human beings. They're a part of the game. If I see the refs make eight mistakes and seven of them are against the one team, I might have the conversation. Make no mistake, the refs were atrocious today. They were horrible, just bad, just bad. Now they screwed Seattle on at least two calls, I know, but they got us. They got us good. So there were at least three of them kind of early. It's three of them that I know. I'll run off the top of my head. There was a roughness penalty on Gardner Johnson early in the game that was just stupid. Just ref, don't insinuate yourself into the game. Keep the flag in your pocket. Cut out the nonsense. I mentioned earlier the offensive pass interference on Josh Reynolds. I still don't know what that is. I don't understand that rule. I don't think he was downfield blocking. I don't know what that was. I know it was a bad call. And then the fourth down play where Reynolds got tripped. I'm sorry. The guy fell and tripped Reynolds. You could maybe give me a ball wasn't catchable, but I don't think we know because the dude got tripped, right? I don't know. They called a crappy grounding penalty on Seattle. That guy broke off his route and Gino throws it to the end zone. They call it grounding. Just as bad. There was a massive hold on the final play of the game. They didn't call. I don't know that it would have mattered. Maybe we hold them to a field goal if we get that. But my general philosophy is unless it is an egregious call and I can't find anything that my team did throughout the game that could have helped them win, I don't generally do blame the ref. It's easy. It's punch button. But my feelings are this. Every referee group, what are they called? A team, a staff, whatever. Crew. That's the word. Every officiating crew in every game every year misses 3 to 5 calls. Either gets them wrong or just totally misses them. And that might be generous. It might be closer to 7. Every game. Every game. Every game I've done, I've seen bad calls, bad no calls. But my philosophy is if I truly believe, if not for that ref call, the team that lost would have won, or if not for the volume of bad calls, and they bordered on that today. Like I said earlier, if they make 8 bad calls and 7 of them are against one team, I'll do the ref thing. Today, they made some big calls that went against the Lions. There are a couple I know went against the Sea, and it was just bad. But truthfully, I won't do the ref thing today because the Lions lost the game. The Lions should have never been in overtime. Should have been close. They lost the game. They missed tackles. They gave up third downs. They let Geno scramble around and make plays. They missed tackles. They threw interceptions. They dropped passes. My general philosophy about a game is when you look at why a team loses, right? If I say, why did my team lose today? 99 times out of 100, the breakdown goes like this: 80% players. 80% something the players did or didn't do cost them the game. 19% coaching. And I have concerns about a couple of offensive calls. I have a lot of concerns about the defensive scheme. So I would put a good chunk of it on coaching today. But it's generally 80% players, 19% coaching, 1% other. Other could be refs, other could be injuries, other could be uh, something else, right? That would be my breakdown today. The refs made some bad calls, but much more players and coaching. 99% players and coaching today. So while I get your ref 4 question marks, I think that was a question. And I say I don't do refs, and then I just spent like 5 minutes doing the ref thing. So apparently, I do the ref thing when asked. Nice job. I'm still not saying names anymore because people do dumb stuff just to get me to say their names. But okay, one more, Mike. With a good-looking Atlanta team next week, followed by a trip to Lambeau, how critical are the next 2 games? How critical are the next two? Well, don't be a prisoner of the moment, right? You can't be a prisoner of the moment right now. And I do this podcast right after the game to be a prisoner of the moment, right? And I was not good, not feeling good about the game initially. And the point of the podcast for me is to talk my way through it, like we've been doing. And when I'm done with the podcast, I generally feel better. So don't be a prisoner of the moment. If you're sitting there now going, they suck, then you just a guy. Call the radio station tomorrow. You need help. You need help because realistically, okay. To answer your question, Atlanta is the critical game because it's the next game. Cliche, I know, but terribly true. Atlanta is critical. No, I'm not thinking about Lambeau. I don't really care about the Packers. I'm not doing that yet. The Atlanta game is critical. Atlanta's 2-0. They're coming to our place. If we play like we played today, Atlanta will beat us. There's only one critical game now. That's Atlanta. You got to win Atlanta next week. That's all that matters. But think about this though. If you're panicking, I don't get it, right? Because if you thought they would be 2-0 right now, then you thought they were going to win in Kansas City, which means you think they're a good team. And why would you bail on that after one loss? That doesn't make sense to me. Because if you had the prediction is they were going to be 2-0 after this game, you clearly thought they were a good football team. And if one loss makes you abandon that, you didn't really believe it anyway. So the reality is most of us thought they'd be 1-1 right now, and they're 1-1 right now. So what's the conversation? Does it matter which one they won and which one they lost? Does the how matter? Maybe. Maybe. To me, my panic is Montgomery. That's my panic. Is David Montgomery. Most of the reasons they lost on the field can be cleaned up. Goff's got to see Gibbs out on the left side for that wide open play. You can't get dumb penalties. You got to cut that out. You got to clean that up. There are missed assignments. For the reason that I still don't know that Jerry Jacobs was playing 10 yards off his man is coachable, right? If that's the scheme, AG, you got to change the scheme, whatever that is. These things are coachable. But if you thought they were going to be 1-1 after two games, guess what? They're 1-1 after two games. What are you upset about? And if you thought they were going to be 0-2, you should still be fine. Now, I get it. As weeks happen, our expectations change. And there are people who thought they'd be 0-2 and they won last week and they thought they went to Kansas City and won, they should go home and beat Seattle. They should be 2-0 and they're disappointed. I get that. I get how that works. That makes sense. I'm probably one of those people, right? But that's the point of this podcast. We talk it through. We talk about how good Laporta looked, how good Barnes looked. We talk about the stuff that makes us how good Jared Goff looks. Even though some of you guys don't want to hear it, I don't really care. These are encouraging things. We can talk about the pick six. If you want to pick out one play and say that was a horrible throw by Goff, cool. If you want to pick out three plays just to get at the quarterback, cool. Put your little script together, call the radio station tomorrow and tell them all about it. If you want to look at the whole thing and still try and project what is this team that you love, what is this team that you root for, what can they do, what can they be, where are they in the grand scheme? They're 1-1. They're still at the top of the division. I don't know what happened with the Bears. That won't matter. I know the Vikings are 0-2, frauds, because they've played two one-score games and lost them both. Statistics never lose. We knew that 11-0 thing from last year was going to correct itself. I don't. So let me shorten all this. They have not played a complete game yet. So you're going to see, you saw flashes at times. Sooner or later, they're going to put together a complete game. And I say it's sooner because here's a fact. Both of the two seasons under Dan Campbell, they were a much better team in the second half of the season than they were in the first half of the season. There's no reason to believe that won't happen again. And that's generally a reflection of young talent getting better. Young talent getting better. So if you tell me Brian Branch is going to keep getting better and Sam Laporta is going to keep getting better and Jack Campbell's going to keep getting better and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get more touches. I think he had 14 touches today. In the scheme, these guys are all going to get better. That's four key rotational players. And then if you tell me guys from last, hopefully Hutch is okay. He looked like he was all right. Hutch is going to get better and Houston's going to get better. And players from last year's class. You got young players getting better. Who knows what Jameson Williams is going to be? Right? I know when he comes back, he changes the defensive planning. He changes the defensive meeting on Wednesday. So, all in all, I'm not concerned. Didn't love it, but it's a lot of things. There's a lot to clean up. And if that's the worst thing you can say, your team's 1-1, still at the top of their division, and they haven't played a complete game yet. They haven't played a clean game yet. I would, because I'm a silver lining, cornbread eating, Kool-Aid drinking crazy man, I would say to you that when they went down 31-21, I was impressed that they got it to overtime. That drive, Goff did not look scared. He did not look rattled. He just did what he had to do. And Dan Campbell strapped on his big boy pants, and they did what they had to do, and they went down and got the touchdown. And then the defense said, "We're going to get you the ball back, and we're going to get you in good territory." Those that succession of three drives, the Lions touchdown drive, because 6 minutes left in that game, they're down 10. And everybody in the building and everybody watching assumes they're about to do something that they used to do so that they can jump up and yell out three letters that they like to yell out. and they didn't. They went down and scored a touchdown. They didn't get a field goal. They went down and scored a touchdown, and they converted two big third downs in the process. That shows something. We can call it grit. We can call it fight. We can call it whatever we want to call it. Whatever you call it, it is something that's going to reward them later in the year. It is something that's going to allow them to win a game they're supposed to lose later in the year, and it'll make up for this game. You could say they gave back the Kansas City win, because if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said they're going to be 1-1. They'll drop Kansas City and beat Seattle. Do I care right now? No. There was too many positives that I saw. I like the mentality of that team that was down 31-21 with 6 minutes left and got that game to overtime. Not a silver lining, still a loss, still not happy. But that, if you ignore that and you just want to talk about SOL and different crap like that, then you're a different kind of cat than me. There is something important noting that they came back and took that game to overtime, especially when you think about if they make one or two plays or don't make one or two plays. If David Montgomery doesn't fumble, if Jared Goff doesn't throw the pick six, that's an easy win. And I still say they were the better team on the field. But in the National Football League, the better team on the field can lose. You can make a case Kansas City was a better team on the field. We could go Thursday. Doesn't matter. 1-1. Okay, so Atlanta next week. We're already at the point where it's a big game. It's a big game. It's an important game. It sets the tone for the season. If they lose that game, the weak-minded fans are going to freak out and just do what they do. I'm not even going to talk about winning or losing, as odd as that sounds. I need them to play a complete game. I don't even care who the opponent is or where the game is. I need them to play better. If they play better, I'm convinced the wins will come. If they play a cleaner game, can't turn the ball over. Last week it was Marvin in the red zone. This week is David Montgomery at our own 25. If we don't, those plays cost you games. Turnovers can't have two bad throws and a bad decision by your quarterback because you just don't have that margin. You don't have that margin of error to make those plays and still win football games. So I want them to play better. I hope when I get on this podcast next week, no matter what the score is or how the game goes, because there's a world where Atlanta plays their perfect game and we don't win. Sure, that world exists. What I want is to see them play better. I need them to play cleaner games, cleaner football, tackle better, cover better, don't drop passes. I need them to be healthy. I need Montgomery to be able to play. I need Vitae might be serious, but we have depth. That's why we're a good team now. We have depth, and I think I need a little better scheming from AG. I need Laporta and Barnes and other players to keep getting better. I'm not worried. So the high level takeaway from today's podcast is these games happen. This is our team. We're going to have games like this. I don't think you're going to see them lay any eggs like they did against the Patriots and the Panthers last year. I don't know that you're going to see them blow anybody out like they did Jacksonville um, and somebody else I'm forgetting. I think every game, every week, this is your Sunday. This is 3-4 hours of every Sunday this fall or whenever they play Thursday, Sunday, whatever. So buckle up. This is what it's going to be like. I still see 12 wins. I still see 12 wins. I don't see 5 other games that we can't win, that we won't win. And that's coming after this, knowing they got to clean it up. But Dan Campbell and his staff have demonstrated the ability to clean up things. That's why after starting 0-10-1 the first year, they went 3-3 in their last 6. That's why after starting 2-6 last year, they went 8-2 down the stretch. Or 1-6, maybe. Yeah, 1-6. They went 8-2 down the stretch. You get better. They've demonstrated an ability to get better. So I need them to grind out a few more wins in the first half of this year and then get better. So while it was tough, maybe a little painful, they can play better. They'll be better. And I think but it's not going to be fun. So strap it on because it's happening. This is what it's going to be like all year. So I appreciate you listening. There are ways to show me likes, retweets, hearts, like somebody did here. Thank you. Um, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We appreciate it for those of you who listened and watched, whether it was 2 minutes or the whole 45. Thanks again to the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward, as always. And everybody have a good week, and we'll see you next week with Atlanta.